Why can't you just regrow it?
Cut a flatworm in half, and you don't get one dead worm, you get two living ones. Within about a week, the half with the head grows a new tail. The half with the tail grows a new head, complete with a working brain, eyes, and a nervous system wired correctly on the first try. Cut yourself, and you get a scar. Same basic problem, wound needs closing, tissue needs replacing, completely different solution. And the difference between those two outcomes is one of the strangest trade-offs in biology. Let's start with what your body actually does when it's injured, because it isn't nothing. It's a highly coordinated, genuinely impressive process. It just isn't regeneration. Cut your skin, and within minutes, platelets rush to the site and form a clot, sealing the wound. Within hours, immune cells arrive to clear debris and fight off infection.
Within days,
A different type of cell, a fibroblast, starts producing collagen, the structural protein that will fill the gap. Here's the part that matters. That collagen doesn't get laid down in the same organized pattern as your original skin. Healthy skin has collagen arranged in a flexible basket weave pattern, crisscrossing in multiple directions, which is why normal skin stretches and moves in every direction. Scar tissue gets collagen laid down almost entirely in one direction, in tight, parallel bundles, like the fibers all pointing the same way. That's why scar tissue looks and feels different. It's less flexible, it doesn't grow hair, it doesn't produce sweat or oil the way surrounding skin does. Because the specialized structures that do those jobs, hair follicles, sweat glands, don't get rebuilt. They get patched over. Your body isn't rebuilding the original structure,
it's manufacturing a fast,
functional cover, prioritizing speed and infection control over exact replication. Repair, not regeneration. Now compare that to an animal that actually can regenerate, and the difference in strategy becomes obvious. The axolotl, a salamander native to a small number of lakes in Mexico, can regrow an entire amputated limb. Not a scar over the stump, a complete, functional leg, with bone, muscle, blood vessels, and nerves, correctly patterned over the course of a few weeks. Here's how it does it, and it's almost the opposite of what your body does. When an axolotl loses a limb, cells at the wound site don't just clot and cover, they de-differentiate, meaning specialized cells, mature bone cells, muscle cells, skin cells, essentially revert backward into a more primitive, flexible state, similar to the state cells were in during early embryonic development. This cluster of reverted cells is called a blastema. The blastema then rereads the original developmental instructions, essentially replaying the genetic program that built the limb the first time in the embryo, and rebuilds the entire structure from scratch, correctly patterned, correctly proportioned, integrated into the existing body. Researchers studying axolotls, including work published by biologist Ellie Tanaka and colleagues, have traced key genetic and cellular pathways involved in this de-differentiation process. It's an active, ongoing area of research, but the core finding holds. The axolotl's cells retain a level of flexibility that allows them to essentially start over. Human cells, once mature, mostly don't do this. A mature human skin cell doesn't revert into an earlier developmental state to rebuild a limb. It just does its narrow, specialized job, or dies and gets replaced by another, already specialized cell of the same type. So, the obvious question. If axolotls can keep this flexibility, why can't we?
The honest answer
Is that we mostly used to. Human embryos regenerate extensively, A human fetus, especially in early pregnancy, can heal certain wounds, essentially without scarring at all, producing new, properly patterned tissue instead of a repair patch. Fetal surgery, performed in the womb for certain birth defects, has documented this directly. Some incisions on a fetus heal so cleanly that no scar forms at all. Even after birth, young children heal with noticeably less scarring than adults, and the capacity declines with age and with the maturity of the tissue involved. So the capacity for cleaner, more regenerative healing didn't disappear from the human genome. It gets switched off or dramatically dialed back as tissue matures and as the immune system develops. That timing is the clue to why. Researchers, including immunologist and regeneration specialist Ellen Heber-Katz, whose lab has studied a rare regenerating mouse strain, have proposed that mammalian scarring and mammalian immune complexity are directly linked, evolutionarily traded against each other. Here's the actual trade-off, and it's a real one, not evolution failing to solve a problem. An animal like an axolotl lives in water, is exposed to relatively fewer complex pathogens compared to a warm-blooded land mammal, and can afford a slower, more methodical repair process, weeks, sometimes longer, without a fast-closing barrier against infection. A mammal, warm-blooded, land-dwelling, constantly exposed to a much wider range of bacteria and fungi in soil, air, and on every surface it touches, needs a wound sealed fast. An open wound, left slowly regenerating over several weeks, the way an axolotl limb does, would be catastrophically vulnerable to infection in a mammal's environment. Fibrous, collagen-dense scar tissue forms a tight, rapid seal, specifically because speed matters more than perfect reconstruction when infection is the immediate threat. Heber-Katz's research on the MRL mouse strain, one of the very few mammals shown to have some genuinely enhanced regenerative capacity, including regrowing ear tissue that normal mice simply scar over, found that these mice also show measurable differences in immune system regulation compared to standard lab mice. The genes involved in rapid scar formation and the genes involved in a highly responsive, fast-acting immune system appear to be tangled together evolutionarily in ways that are difficult to separate. In other words, the same biological toolkit that gives mammals a powerful, fast-acting immune system, one of the reasons warm-blooded animals can survive in environments packed with dangerous microbes, appears to actively work against extensive tissue regeneration. You likely can't have both running at full strength in the same animal, at least not with the biology mammals currently have. This is why the animals that regenerate most impressively, salamanders, certain fish, some invertebrates, tend to have simpler, slower, less specialized immune systems than mammals do. And it's why mammals, including you, get an immune system built to survive a hostile microbial world, at the cost of a healing process that patches rather than rebuilds. There's a second piece to this, and it involves cancer. Regeneration requires cells to revert to an earlier, less specialized, more rapidly dividing state, essentially the same category of cellular behavior that, uncontrolled, produces a tumor. A body that allows its cells to de-differentiate and proliferate easily, the way a blastema does, needs extremely tight control over when that process starts and when it stops. Some researchers examining why regeneration is rare among long-lived mammals propose that stricter limits on cellular de-differentiation may be part of how larger, longer-lived animals keep cancer risk down over a longer lifespan. A mouse lives 2 to 3 years. A human can live 80 or more. More years alive means more cell divisions, more chances for something to go wrong, and correspondingly, evolution appears to have favored much stricter guardrails around any process that lets mature cells revert to a flexible, rapidly dividing state. This doesn't fully explain the picture. It's an active hypothesis, not a settled certainty, but it fits a broader, consistent pattern. The things that make regeneration possible, flexible cells willing to de-differentiate and multiply, a slower, more tolerant approach to open wounds, are the same things that make a long-lived, infection-resistant, cancer-resistant body harder to maintain. You didn't lose regeneration by accident. Your body appears to have traded it away, deliberately, in the evolutionary sense, for a combination of faster wound sealing against a hostile microbial world and tighter cellular discipline across a much longer lifespan than a salamander ever has to survive. There is one place in your body where something closer to true regeneration still quietly happens, and most people never think about it. Your liver can regrow. Remove up to 70% of a human liver through injury or surgical donation, and the remaining tissue can regenerate back to close to its original functional mass within a matter of weeks, through existing liver cells rapidly dividing, not through a blastema, but through a genuinely remarkable capacity that most other human organs simply don't have. Nobody fully understands why the liver retained this ability while skin, muscle, and limbs largely didn't.
One leading idea
Is that the liver evolved this capacity specifically because it's a detoxification organ, constantly exposed to toxins, historically more likely to sustain damage than almost any other organ, and therefore under stronger, more consistent selective pressure to recover quickly. So the capacity for regeneration isn't gone from mammalian biology entirely. It's rare, tightly restricted, and apparently only worth the trade-off in specific organs facing specific, recurring threats. Before we finish, an honest note. Regenerative medicine is an active, fast-moving research field, exploring whether some of the biological switches that limit human regeneration could someday be safely adjusted for wound healing, for organ damage, for age-related tissue loss. Some of that research is promising, none of it is close to letting you regrow a limb, and any claim that suggests otherwise, right now, isn't accurate.
So the next time you look at a scar
And wonder why your body settled for a patch instead of a perfect rebuild, you can give yourself the more accurate answer. It wasn't a limitation your body failed to solve. It was a trade your body made, and largely still makes, choosing a fast, tough, infection-resistant seal over a slow, flawless reconstruction, in a world full of things that would kill you long before a perfect repair ever finished. You are not broken. You are built to survive the wound quickly, not to erase that it happened.